Perfect. So welcome everyone. My name is Dana McGrath. I am an employer relations partner with Southern New Hampshire University Career Services team. Thank you for joining us this evening for our Alternative Accounting Careers virtual panel event. And we're representing a broad array of accounting professionals in all diverse stages of their career paths. And we also want you to know that your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important to us. It's our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of this presentation's design or delivery that present barriers to accessibility, please notify the following resources. Online students, you can reach the Online Accessibility Center by emailing oac@snhu.edu or by phone at 866-305-9430. Campus students have the Campus Accessibility Center. You can email cac@snhu.edu or reach out by phone to 603-644-3118. And SNHU staff and faculty, please contact the Human Resources Office by emailing hr@snhu.edu. All right, and without further ado, I would like to introduce our esteemed panel moderator, our SNHU Associate Dean Anne McLaughlin, whose professional, educational, and volunteer expertise provides a perfect balance to lead the discussion this evening. With an understanding of how a successful career in accounting, it can take a lot of different shapes. So Anne currently serves as our Associate Dean in the business vertical. She oversees the accounting portfolio at SNHU, brings extensive experience in education, taxation, accounting, corporate management, spanning over 15 years with international, nonprofit, and CPA firms, and holds both a Master of Accounting and MBA from Nova Southeastern University, where she studied forensic accounting, taxation, and management. She's passionate about education while teaching students how to learn based on their learning styles, strengths, career goals, and interests. Anne is an avid volunteer and servant leader in her community. Her volunteer efforts include financial literacy, homelessness, hunger, and women and youth empowerment. Personally, she enjoys spending time with her family and friends. She loves classical music, meditation, and learning new languages. And she also holds quite a few licenses, memberships, and additional accolades from the list here. And be sure to check that out. Again, this will be recorded, so you can check out all the exciting things that Anne is involved with and has been a part of. So thank you so much, Anne, for moderating our panel this evening.
Thank you for the invitation to moderate this virtual panel event. Let's dive right in. Can you switch slides, please? This slide reflects my colorful path as an accounting professional. I started out in college where taxation wasn't my best course. Frankly, I struggled with it. And my dad, being the CPA that he is, did not have that. So I started working during tax season, preparing taxes. And then for my internship, as I finished my bachelor's degree, I had an internship in taxation. And then after graduation, it led to a host of corporate roles and then going back to taxation. About probably 8-10 years ago, I started teaching as an accounting adjunct, subsequently a program director, and now I'm the Associate Dean of Business, overseeing the accounting portfolio. So my career has come full circle in which I'm able to relate to as many students as possible throughout my career. So let's take a look at these opportunities in accounting. When we look at the financial arm, students who are interested in preparation, analysis, auditing, they normally go towards the CPA track. The managerial role, which is where I had some experience, students tend to go for the certified management accounting. This is where they're more interested in budgets, nonprofits, and sometimes government. The third column is my friend, taxation. There's a lot of different types of taxes. Mainly there's income tax, which is taught within our program, but there's a host of other taxes, property taxes, sales tax, and the list goes on. And then the fourth column is accounting relating topics. So anything with forensic accounting, entrepreneurship. So within the opportunities in accounting, there are various areas in which you can go. Our panelist this evening reflects a broad range of accounting opportunities. At this time, I'll introduce our guests. Andrew Danier from Asa Abloh. Andrew received his bachelor's degree in accounting from Southern New Hampshire University in 2016. He lived in Charlotte metro area where he's a staff accountant for an architectural accessory division of Asa Abloh, a global leader in opening solutions. He has developed his accounting skills in the areas of cost accounting and analytics to be a key business advisor to the general manager. Let's give Andrew a round of applause or virtual reaction. And next we have Gregory Kelly. Greg has worked in public and corporate accounting for 12 years, starting his career in New York City, working as a banking auditor for PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers. He moved to DC in 2012 and eventually switched from auditing to advising clients on deals activity. He started at Capital One in 2018 and now oversees accounting for all purchases and sale activity at the company, as well as external reporting to investors. Let's welcome Gregory. Next, we have Allison Jarry, Field Audit Assistant for Quality. Allison graduated from SNHU in 2009 with a bachelor's degree in accounting. She interviewed with the Defense Contract Audit Agency, DCAA, during her senior year, having attended a career networking event on campus, which sparked her interest in the agency. She joined DCAA as an audit trainee, was promoted to a senior auditor, and then became a supervisor auditor in 2014. She has held the supervisor role for the past 7 years and recently pivoted toward a position within the agency that focused on quality as a part of the required rotation policy. Allison has been married for 7 years and has 2 young daughters. She enjoys outside activities and spending as much time with family as possible. Let's welcome Allison. Next, we have Terry Karaji, Director of Transformation. Terry Karaji is currently a Director of Transformation at Graphic Packaging International. She has over 20 years of finance and accounting experience across multiple industries, with demonstrated ability in inventory management, financial analysis, continuous improvement, and implementing financial controls. Teresa earned a BBA with a concentration in accounting and a BA in psychology from the University of Michigan and a registered CPA in Illinois. Let's welcome Teresa. Jen McLaren, President of Smartwool. Jen McLaren is the current brand president of Smartwool, a manufacturer of merino wool apparel, accessories, and socks to fuel your adventures outside. Jen is responsible for the oversight and strategic direction of the Smartwool global brand, headquartered in Denver, Colorado. She has been with Smartwool for more than 9 years as a member of the senior leadership team and was the chief financial officer prior to elevating to brand president role. Jen is a dedicated outdoor enthusiast and believes that businesses have an obligation to make the world a better place. She's also a current board member for both Outdoor Industry Association and SOS Outreach nonprofit organization. Let's show our guests a warm welcome with your virtual applause. Welcome to all. We're looking forward to our discussion today and glean from the rich experiences of our panelists. Let's keep our responses to 1 to 2 minutes to honor the time and allow the questions from our students and attendees. Okay, this question is for all our panelists. How did you start your career in accounting? And was it something you planned or was it something you fell into? Who wants to jump right in?
I'd be happy to start. This is Allison Jerry. Thank you once again for inviting me to participate in this. I was really happy to do so. As it noted in my introduction, I actually, as a senior, participated in an accounting career night offered by Southern New Hampshire University. And the culinary program at the time prepared a dinner and invited many different companies to come and meet with the auditors. And that was followed by a networking hour as well. And at the time, there were different slots where you could sign up to actually interview with some of the companies if you were interested. So I actually became interested in accounting while I was still in high school. They offered an accounting class, and I did research when applying to colleges and realized that Southern New Hampshire had such an amazing accounting program, and it was awesome, and it followed me the whole way through. And I ended up landing a job with DCAA just because of these awesome events that the school puts on for the students. So it was definitely promotion by Southern New Hampshire. I also just wanted to note that to find out more information about DCAA, we have some Meet the Auditor sessions. Dana was mentioning she was going to show it while I was talking about that. So if you're interested about learning about more about DCAA, just like I had through Southern New Hampshire, there are some separate sessions that are available.
Thank you so much. And we see some information in the chat. Thank you for sharing. Who'd like to go next?
I can go next. So Teresa Correga, and we noted in my introduction, I actually have 2 undergraduate degrees. So originally I was going to go to school for psychology. Similar to Allison, I had taken an accounting course in high school and decided to change directions quite late. And so ended up getting both degrees and then started my career from there. I did go into public accounting first, and I got a broad experience because I joined a smaller firm. So I got to do a little bit of tax and auditing work and even a little bit of consulting. And then from there went into industry roles and really navigated through numerous industries. So picking up a little bit in telecom, cable industry, retail, and now manufacturing. And that kind of brought all of my experience home from a public accounting role that I got to see all those different industries from that perspective. And so up until recently, within the last 2 years, I've had various roles, even in graphic packaging. I've been here 13 years, from corporate FP&A into our mill division, into supply chain, and now I'm part of IT and helping to lead the company through its S/4HANA implementation.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm happy to go next. Greg Kelly, thank you for the introduction and good to meet everybody. I'm excited to spend a little bit of time talking about my background and how great it is to be an accountant. As far as how I got here, I did have a couple of family members who were accountants, and not dissimilar to you. I had a little bit of influence that was coming from me already, but I went to school. I knew I liked business and wanted to study business. I originally focused on finance, but as I got through my accounting classes and we had career days and talked to folks who had done the work and had gone off to do very interesting things in the accounting world. I think it seemed to fit that, like, hey, I'm good at this. It's interesting. I learned pretty quickly that being an accountant is not like a one-size-fits-all thing. You can do very different things under the guise of like being an accountant, right? And I did that throughout the first decade of my career, being an auditor, being somebody who is an advisor, being somebody who works privately at a company, right? And focusing more on strategy, right? And like how to push a company forward. And so yeah, it's been an interesting journey to get here, but yeah, definitely a little bit of family influence, but you got to like what you do. So it all comes down to that too.
I can go next. Hi, thanks for having me. My name's Andrew Dano, or Andy Dano. I actually, accounting was my backup plan. I was originally in the engineering program at UNH and found it to be a little too difficult. I got through 2.5 years of it and realized it wasn't right for me. I really enjoyed accounting in high school. We had an extensive program at Pinkerton where it was like a double class. So we got to do some like real world examples, and I really enjoyed it. So I transferred to SNHU. I had a few friends that went to SNHU and graduated as accountants, and they kind of pushed me along. And I actually work for one of them now, and he's really been a great mentor to me. And as Greg was saying, you know, there is really no cookie cutter role as an accountant. I'm just a staff accountant, but I do everything, including tax, which I don't like doing. I didn't really want to get into the tax, but I find myself doing sales and use tax on a monthly, quarterly, and yearly basis for my group, and I enjoy it. It's a very challenging role, and I'm still fairly new, as I've only been in this role for almost 3 years now, but definitely a great experience and good time. Accounting's great.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen McLaren. Nice to be with you all, and thanks for inviting me. So my path is a little untraditional, I would say, but I actually started out in accounting as I was trying to figure out what I could go to school for. My guidance counselor at high school said, "Hey, you're really good with numbers. Both my parents came from the business world. Why don't you give business a shot?" And actually, UNH has a great concentration in accounting program, so why don't you try that? And sure enough, I followed my strengths and listened to that advice, and you know, found that it was something that came easier to me, and I enjoyed it, and was able to land an internship at Wheelabrator while I was at UNH. And you know, was exposed to Arthur Anderson, the public accountants that worked with them, and ended up parlaying that into you know, career opportunity there. And so had some, you know, great early career experience working with big companies and just trying to understand how businesses work, and that became my passion, and my passion turned into working in the outdoor apparel industry within the finance realm. So worked at Timberland for a long time, now at Smartwool for a long time, and just continued to follow that path now into sort of a brand leadership role. But accounting's at the center always, and it's amazing what you can do with it from a business standpoint. It's truly, you know, one of those skills that I think helps everybody be successful here in business, is really understanding the numbers. So it's a great place to start, and like everyone's talked about here, there's so many different avenues that you can follow, which is really fun.
Thank you. And Jen mentioned something important about accounting and numbers. Accountants tell the story behind the numbers, so that definitely helps. This question is for Teresa and Andrew. What skills do you find to be most valuable in your everyday work? And Teresa, if you'd like to include your psychology background, that would help as well. So the question, what skills do you find to be most valuable in your everyday work? For Teresa and Andrew.
So Andrew, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and take this first. I would really start off with natural curiosity, just having a drive to understand the why. So if you come across something that's wrong, not just stopping there, but kind of digging in and trying to figure out. And I'm a puzzle person, so I like to figure things out. I'm also a process person, so I love to understand the process behind how did it end up like this, and then how can we make it better. Impact is important to me, making an impact in a role or the organization that I'm working in. So natural curiosity, one, and then the second thing is, you know, critical thinking. We all are getting educated, not just through our college education, but also on the job. And we shouldn't be fearful of applying what we know to different issues that arise. If you don't get it right, it's okay. You can still learn from a mistake, right? But don't be afraid to be a critical thinker. I think all those other things, you know, time management, collaboration, communication, all of those are important as well. They definitely go a long way to help your career, help you grow your career. You know, I couldn't have done my first role here at Graphic Packaging without reaching out. You know, we're a global organization, and so I had to reach out, not just via email, but pick up the phone and talk to my controller in Japan, pick up the phone and talk to this person in Germany. And that's allowed me to build relationships over the years across the globe. I have people that will call me, hey, Teresa, I have a problem. Can you help me? Okay, well, I'm not the right person, but I can figure out how to get you the help that you need, right? So it's kind of all of that. And then just, Anne, back to your question on the psychology. So while I'm not a psychologist, I know enough to be dangerous. I will say it helps me understand how people work, you know, so I really do look at how does this person communicate, what might be a trigger for them, and I pay attention to those types of things as I develop my relationships.
Teresa, I definitely appreciate your answer. That natural curiosity, that professional skepticism, that's important with accounting. So we're not auditors, but if something doesn't smell right, we ask the question, right?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Andrew.
My answer is probably similar. I like how Teresa put it as curiosity, but mine's more problem solving. You come up, like if you find something that's off, you need to understand why we got to this point, and which leads to my next point is being versatile. Like there's a lot of issues that can go wrong in manufacturing, and you need to learn more about the process than just the accounting functions. My group's unique where our companies that we support are not in the same state as us. So we have to get out to the factories. We haven't because of COVID, but usually we go in the factories, we're learning their processes to understand how it's impacting transactionally on our end. So I would definitely say problem solving and be versatile, where, you know, there are times where, you know, we would have to go out to the company, to the manufacturing plant to figure out, you know, one of the issues we've been dealing with is our WIP keeps growing and we can't figure out what's going on. So we'd have to go out to the factory, and then we'd find, you know, transactionally they're doing something in the manufacturing process, which is affecting the GL, and then we'd collaborate with IT to try and get it resolved. So once we identify a problem, why it's happening, and, you know, we collaborate to figure out how we can fix it and move forward, and not make the same mistake. Another thing I would say is prioritizing your workflow, because many times there are those moments where you have to drop what you're doing to go rush and fix a problem. So I would definitely say, you know, prioritizing workflow is also very important, along with the communication. Like Teresa, I'm with a global company. I have people from Singapore calling me. If there's an issue, there's a time issue. So sometimes we're getting calls at like 2 a.m, because it's not 2 a.m. in Singapore. So it's definitely communication goes along with all of that. But yeah.
All right.
So,
thank you, Andrew. You mentioned something which leads me to my next question when it comes to workflow. So this question is for Greg and Jen. Describe your workflow. Is there any seasonality or peak periods in your work? To describe your workflow, is there any seasonality or peak periods in your work? Greg and Jen. Thank you.
I can jump in. Sure, there certainly was when I was in accounting, as we all know. We have big, heavy seasons, whether you're in tax or audit or just year-end close. And so what I found, though, in my new roles is that continues. There's always big planning meetings, big presentations, big, just collaboration sessions now on go-to-market and how we bring products to market. So I think this happens whatever industry you're in. And so it's really all about planning and time management, as Andrew was just talking about, and prioritizing what's important, not just what's on your to-do list or what's urgent, and really giving yourself time to plan for that, but also taking advantage when you have those downtimes. I used to love it when I was in public accounting because they would actually encourage us to take a couple weeks off at a time. And it was a little bit like a sabbatical because they knew that when busy times come around, you're going to be all in. So take advantage of those downtimes and, just feed your curiosity and continue to learn outside of accounting as well. It's helpful to manage your time that way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can chime in too from my perspective. So there definitely is a seasonality to my work. If you had asked me this question a couple of months ago, I'd probably have a different answer for you. So it's always changing. So I can sort of tell you that too. So I now oversee 3 teams here at Capital One. We have an SEC reporting team that does like our quarterly filings, right? Our 10Qs and our 10Ks. And so there's always that constant quarterly cadence where you build up and then you slow down. I also oversee a securitization reporting team here. And that work is done actually on a monthly basis. So the beginning of every month, like that team ramps up. And then on top of that, I think most of my work focuses around all of our merger and acquisition activity. And like those deals themselves are pretty hard to predict when they build up, how long they'll take, when they'll close, how painful integration is going to be. And so that's a little bit less predictable, I'd say, than the first 2. And so, yeah, the workflow definitely ebbs and flows. Definitely echo the comments around, like embrace the lulls when they happen because they're not going to last forever. But also, time management's important. Obviously, like if you have a team, leveraging your team is very important and making sure that, you're not in something alone when there's a team to support you. And, Capital One does a good job of that, right? We pull people in when we need help and we lend people out when other teams need help too.
Thank you both for sharing. This question is for Andrew and Allison. How do you apply your accounting skills in your current role? And were there any specific courses or SNHU resources that equipped you to use those skills? So the question again, how do you apply your accounting skills in your current role? And were there any specific courses or SNHU resources that equipped you to use these skills? You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Just wanted to start off with people that aren't familiar. At DCAA, we audit government contracts for supplies, equipment, and services that help our military service members and their missions succeed. We ensure that taxpayers and the DoD get the best value for every dollar spent. I would say that I did take a governmental accounting class at SNHU. I'm not sure if that's still offered or not. It touched on some basics related to the government and some of the financials and some of the systems that may still be used. Also took an auditing class, became very interested in that. This is, like I said, has a big focus on providing assistance to help our military. And I would say that definitely the auditing class made me become a little bit more interested. But I will say you need to have a general background and understanding of accounting to be able to do this job. And I think that those are the main skills that I took with me to be able to communicate and understand how some of the different systems are put together. But DCAA is unique. Once you do join it, you learn about some of the things that are being made, some of the services. It's very, very fun to see and what's being provided and put together. And that I do say, is something that you learn once you get to the job, because the job offers so many different positions. Like I said, I was a trainee, a senior auditor, supervisory auditor, and now I'm actually helping out different offices from a quality standpoint, making sure that the audits are done within agency policies and so forth. So I'll definitely say that government accounting, maybe the auditing classes are two of the more similar to what I do.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I think the most important class I took at SNHU was financial statement analysis. As a couple analysts have already said, you know, we're more concerned of the why than why something's happening, what's driving those numbers versus just reporting the numbers. With our close is a pretty quick turnaround. It's 3 days, and I think we spend most of our time analyzing and going through all the analytics and trying to understand why certain numbers are higher versus prior year versus run rate versus. So I think we spend more time working with the analytics than anything to assist our general managers on, you know, what needs to be maybe a business decision or a change in productivity. So, you know, I would say definitely financial statement analysis was probably the most important class for me. That's the one that kind of sticks out that I tend to use on a daily, but especially during close. But they're all important in their own aspect because I'm still doing tax. Yeah, so I'd say financial statement analysis.
Andrew, thanks for your answer. And just to keep in mind, everyone, accounting is a language of business, and your responses reflect that, because that financial statement analysis tells the why. And as far as your taxes, don't fight it. It doesn't win. You won't win, right?
Nope.
All right, this question is for Greg and Jen. What advice would you give a recent graduate or mid-career changer to be successful as a new member of your team? So what advice would you give a recent graduate or mid-career changer to be a successful new member of your team?
I can jump in here. Greg, if you don't mind, I keep jumping in. So one of the things, the pieces of advice that I'm giving a lot of our new folks and, you know, broadly our entire team is that obviously the last 3 years have been pure chaos for anyone around the world, certainly in the business world. And, you know, one of the best things I can say from an advice standpoint is to really embrace this notion of growth mindset, which means to really embrace change, look at change as an opportunity to learn versus resisting that, because when you resist, right, it becomes incredibly stressful. And so it allows you to approach things from a positive light, but also be really open to learn. I think many of the panel members here have spoken about this already, but you know, when you're curious and you're open to learning from others, it just makes the job so much more enjoyable. You actually learn to be invigorated by change, which I think is incredibly helpful in times like these. Okay, Greg, over to you.
Jen, you stole my line there. Yeah, I added my notes, embrace change. But look, I can talk about it from a little bit of a different angle. You know, here at Capital One, we change things a lot, and sometimes the changes we make feel arbitrary, but they're always for a good reason in the background. I think getting into a mindset where you can identify maybe the problems that are in a process, or maybe the inefficiencies that are in a process, and speak up and feel comfortable speaking up about how we could make something more efficient in the future is a skill set that is super important to everybody on my team. And, you know, it's certainly something that's embraced across the company. Yeah, just because you're new to an organization or you're new to a role doesn't mean that, you know, the folks around you are smarter, or, you know, maybe they have a little bit more experience, but sometimes experience isn't necessarily the best thing. You can get a little bit stuck in your ways, and, you know, sometimes it takes a fresh set of eyes to come in and look at a process and identify what's wrong with it, identify how we can take some manual things and maybe automate them. And then, you know, the use of my time all of a sudden becomes more value add, right? Because I can spend it doing strategic thinking instead of ticking and tying or whatever it might be. So yeah, that's I'd say the biggest thing that separates the great new associates that come in from the ones who, you know, fall a little bit behind.
Greg, I love your answer. See something, say something. And not because you're new means that you don't know enough to speak up or invite your perspective in the conversation. So thank you. Now, the next two questions are open to any of the panelists. So what skills or qualities do you see new hires lacking when they enter the workforce? So what skills or qualities do you see new hires are lacking when they enter the workforce? So I'll take probably two individuals on that one.
I'll go.
Okay.
I'll just say this is a topic that, you know, I'm seeing today within graphic packaging, specifically within finance. I mean, I'm in a role where I work broadly across many different groups, but specifically within our finance team is that whole problem solving and being willing to jump in, and when they see something, to dig in and actually apply their educational background and the experiences that their past experiences to a problem to help solve it, as opposed to just going to the next person and asking them what the answer is, right? So to me, that is a very critical skill set to have, and it really looks in terms of the company's bench strength for being able to promote people up.
Love that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Take one more on that question.
I could just add a couple comments. I don't necessarily think that I've seen new hires lacking this, but just from my own experience, you know, starting right out of college, I just think it's so important as a new hire to any company to make sure that you ask questions. And I want to make sure that people don't feel uncomfortable to do so. It's beneficial in any company. And so just to point out there, if you are going to be a new hire anywhere, it's really important to make sure you have a full understanding of your job and that you're doing things right and you understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you. Another question that's open to the panelists: what could interested candidates do to prepare and bring in value to your team? What could interested candidates do to prepare and bring in value to your team?
I can jump in if no one wants to. I would say just be proactive. When you get in a new role, as Teresa was saying, don't wait for someone to give you the answer. Go try and solve something on your own, or be proactive. Like my company offers training programs through LinkedIn, and you know, I didn't have the Excel skills when I first started, so I was proactive, going to my supervisor to learn as much Excel as I could, and I was pointed to this portal on our company page where I can go and do all these learning exercises for the within the structure of the company, and they have mandatory ones that we have to do. But just be proactive, trying to learn new things, because had I not asked, I would have never known we offered that through the company, which could have come out of my own pocket. And I've taken about 10 Excel classes through the company. Didn't cost anything, and definitely helped me learn different formulas and how to make my job a lot easier and get things done a lot more efficiently and quickly. So that would be my advice.
That's great, Andrew. Our company also rolled out LinkedIn Learning this year, and so I think that's a really good tool to start building your skill set, right? Adding to that toolbox. Another thing you could do is also look at if your company offers any rotational type programs, right? So at Graphic Packaging, we have our leadership development programs. We have a operations track that's more geared towards our engineering folks, and then we have a finance track. And so it's a rotational program through different finance organizations over a period of a year, and then at the end of that, you would get to get to pick, based on the openings that we have, where you could go from there. And a lot of companies too, I would say, usually have something with an internal audit program. That's also a really good way to get in the door at a company and really learn about the company, what they do, how they do it, what you might run into, as it's a quick way to learn, what not to do once you go out into the field, right? So just be open to different paths to get you where you want to go.
Thank you. And our final question for each of the panelists: what surprised you about your career in accounting? Good surprise, bad surprise?
I'll take it. I'll take it. I will say, I actually, for a long time, because I didn't start out as an accountant, always said, yes, I'm doing an accounting role. I'm in finance. I'm, dealing with different business leaders, but I am not an accountant.
Don't fight it.
For decades, okay. But I'd say probably about 5 years ago, I was sitting down and just kind of reflecting and saying, Teresa, you actually really are an accountant. You think like an accountant. You look at problems the way an accountant would look at it. I don't maybe typically act like your typical accountant. I can be more extroverted and, trying to meet people and things like that. But yeah, I had to admit that to myself.
Okay. Thank you for being transparent.
I'll be happy to talk next. I would say it's pretty much the different variety of audits that I would be exposed to. DCA performs many different types of audits throughout the contract life cycle for government contractors. Just to name a couple, we do forward pricing audits that evaluate proposed costs to help contracting officers negotiate before awarding a contract. We also do system audits that ensure the contractor can accurately track, report, and bill labor and material costs in accordance with government regulations. And then we also do incurred cost audits that assess contract costs billed, typically annually or before contract closeout. And there's many different other types, but I've had so much different experience and worked on so many different teams and been able to touch upon many different types of audits. It's not just one specific type out there.
It's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I can also chime in. I think my biggest surprise was probably around just the fact that certain roles in accounting have way more, I think, human interaction than maybe you'd expect them to, at least when you the accounting pub out there isn't great. We all wear our green visors, we crank the Addy machine, right? And we do our taxes and we go home, right? But no, depending on what you do, you can be talking to a wide variety of people every day, right? I work with economists, I work with, finance folks, I work with folks in the business, I work with tech folks, right? It really is a lot of communication back and forth. Like you said, Anne, we are accounting represents the language of business. Well, when we take that publicly, we need to make sure that folks from a wide variety of areas are comfortable with what we're saying, right? And that we're accurately reflecting what's going on at your company. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot more communicating, a lot more coordinating than I think you might expect if you just, saw how accountants were portrayed in movies or TV or whatever it might be.
And just to add to Greg's point quickly, there's a lot of writing involved in accounting. I've written so many IRS letters, and you write it with a teardrop because you want to help your client to ensure that there's no issues. So there's a lot of writing that's done at every level in accounting. Jen, you want to go next?
I'll go next.
Andrew?
Very similar to Greg, I had on my notes that I was pleasantly surprised to find out you don't just sit in a cubicle at your desk all day and don't talk to anyone. You actually get out. I travel because of it. I go to Pennsylvania, Connecticut. I haven't been to California yet, but Tennessee, and I'm here in North Carolina. And you meet all from the laborers in the factories all the way up to the top level CEOs, presidents. Like, you're interacting with every group within the organization, and it's a lot more interesting than people have labeled it. It's actually you're not doing the same thing every day. So I definitely was surprised at how hands-on the job really was.
I agree.
So I'll build on all of these points, which is, for me, it's just opened up so many doors of opportunity for learning and for helping others. So I started out my career in public accounting. I worked on the Fox IPO, which was super interesting. I went to venture capital during the .com bust, boom and bust, and analyzed lots of companies that are no longer with us. And then, you know, had many different roles at Timberland, had many different roles at Smartwool, and just was able to parlay, you know, my career into a passion for the outdoors that I have. So I think wherever your passion lies, accounting can be at the center of that and help open up doors that, you know, may not be open otherwise. And the amount of people that ask for my guidance and advice through business is just incredible. So building on the points that Greg and Andrew were just talking about, you just build such amazing relationships across the industry because a lot of people don't have that foundational business acumen that accounting gives you, and they need help on advisement of how to, you know, what business decision to make in that situation, and they come to you for help. So definitely reach out, build those relationships, be known as that business and thought partner, and I think the opportunity will be yours.
I just want to thank each and every one of you for participating today and for sharing your experience with us. I learned a lot. It was very inspiring, and I'm pretty sure it did for the students and the attendees as well. At this time, I'd like to turn the virtual lectern over to Dana.
Thank you so much, Anne. And that hour flew by. So thank you all for such amazing insights and just for being here tonight. And as everyone's kind of thinking about your questions, we had a few come through. But, you know, as everyone's kind of thinking about the questions that they were coming up with throughout the discussion, I want to do my little shameless plug here again. So keep in mind the SNHU Career Services team. It's an included resource. Reach out to us to schedule time with a career advisor by email at cocecareer@snhu.edu or reach out by phone at 888-672-1458. Also, make sure to check out Handshake, like Allison mentioned. The DCAA has a couple events coming up to meet the auditors in more detail, so check that out. Those are posted in Handshake for March 21st and March 30th too. So that's an amazing resource for job searching, employer-hosted events, networking. So excellent there. And like Jen mentioned, you know, think about kind of, you know, where your career can take you, where you have all these different roles. And is it career? Is it a job now? Can you use that experience to build a career for something you're passionate about? So we have a fun little infographic to show, you know, the job versus career too. And you can really make your dreams happen. And we want to help you make that happen too. So make sure to lean on our resources here. But yeah, as far as the questions that came through, we'll go ahead and jump in there. I have Kathy Montanarella with me here as well, if she wants to jump in with any questions. But Clarice mentioned one, and maybe it's a two-part one. How did you know that the area of accounting, like what it was that you wanted to stay in? And then maybe a branch of that, what don't you like about tax? Because that seems to be an inside joke that maybe some of us don't relate to. So if you want to fill us in, so we can be in too. Anyone can jump in.
Anybody?
Okay, I'll jump in. I realized very quickly I did not like tax. As part of building my resume while I was a student, I applied and got into the VITA program, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, and I did that for a tax season in New Hampshire. And while I met a lot of nice people, I met a lot of not so nice people when they owed taxes. So some people love tax, and kudos to them. It's just not me. I like tax is I find it very structured, and
Mm.
for me, it's just not as interesting. If that's your cup of tea, great. I like what I'm doing, where it's changing all the time, and I'm constantly evolving and doing different things, and that's what keeps me engaged. So that's why I chose the area I'm in.
So Andrew, I would say I have a different experience with tax. I really liked, yes, it is structured, it's very rule based, but your client's fact pattern is very different, right, from client to client. And so how you apply those rules to each situation, you end up with a different result. And that's what I loved about tax. I loved, you know, like, there's no way you can know it all because the tax codes are so big. But I loved it. And partnership taxation, like, to me, that was like the most difficult because you have to do step ups and step downs. And I don't really remember getting into that when I took my corporate accounting tax class. But seeing it in the field, I really enjoyed tax. And again, to me, I think it goes back to that whole, I like puzzles. And so it was always interesting applying my clients' facts and circumstances and applying the tax laws to that to see how it would change the outcome for them.
We have a related question. Is a tax role internal or external position within your company?
I've seen it both ways. So my company, Graphic Packaging, we actually do have a tax department. And it's about 4 or 5 people. We have a VP of tax. So we have people that are over all of our sales and use tax. We have the federal tax people, and then the group that also does our state tax returns. But we also work with our public accounting firm to help us get all of that work completed, because again, we are a global company, and then we are in multiple states across the country. So you know, and within that, you know, we're always looking at transfer price, not just domestic transfer price, but also international transfer price and managing those audits. So we do have a tax group. I've been in companies where they had them and then they disbanded them and just went to an outsourced structure. So I think it's kind of nice that this company, when I started here, was a lot smaller than it is today. Today we're like a $6 billion company, and that we've maintained having a tax department.
My company is very similar. We have a tax team, but we also have an outside tax team. And the only thing I'm doing with tax, I'm just filing the sales and use tax for my group. So I'm thankful that's all I have to file, but I do prepare the year-end tax stuff for our tax team. So I fill out this long survey and give them all the data that they need, and you know, they'll follow back up with me usually around this time, and then I'll get another follow-up probably in the summer, but thankfully I don't have to file that one. I just provide the info for it. So.
Okay, so here's a different question that came up. I'm a graduate student and work full-time. This makes it harder for me to get an internship, but I want to gain more experience. What would you recommend?
I would just point out there that the DCAA team has a pathways. You can also set up an account on USA Jobs where you can create a resume and apply for some of the internships as well as jobs out there. And there's many different opportunities with the pathways. You can also start as an intern and then, you know, develop and actually become a permanent employee. An internship is an awesome way to find out if you're a great fit and you really like and enjoy how the company works and what you do for the company.
I was in a similar situation, and that's why I did the VITA program. That was pretty easy. I picked the days that I could do it and the time frames. I know they offer nights and also weekends. I think I did mine like on Tuesdays and Thursday nights from like 6 to 9, and that's how I was able to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, the internship programs are awesome because you can do full and part-time. Definitely work with the team to do what works for everybody.
That's a great option. Some students are wondering about professional associations. How have they helped you? Are you active? Are you more on the periphery during peak periods of your work? What organizations have you joined and have been really beneficial to you? And do you have time to be active in those?
Yeah, so, oh, sorry,
I wanted to jump in real quick. The AICPA, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, they have complimentary student membership. So that's a way for you to learn more about the accounting profession. And sometimes they have mentors. So that's one of the ways that you can start as a student.
Yeah, so I'm also a member of the AICPA and also the Virginia Society of Public Accountants. And I'd say I'm not super active with either group. What they are helpful in, if you're a CPA, just getting your CPEs each year and like keeping your license up to date and keeping you up to date on what new accounting rules might have changed, what's happening in your state or what's happening more nationally. They also advocate for accountancy in certain forums, and so I think supporting those groups is helpful, even if you're not necessarily active every day in the day-to-day operations of what they do. They are fighting for you as an accountant in wherever you are, whether it's at the state level or something more broad.
We have about 1 minute left. I know we had one more question that Jonathan submitted and just kind of address that. And I know we touched on it with kind of the SNHU courses, but did you feel at the start of your first accounting job that you could start the job with enough knowledge to hit the ground running, or did it take some time to really get up to speed and you had to ask those kind of questions and, be open, or if you could tell us a little bit more about that?
I would say for sure. I actually started before I even graduated. I interviewed and they said, as long as you're going to be graduating, we'd be happy to start. So everything was fresh in my mind. Like I said, it is a little unique because you do a little bit more with government contracts, but the agency also is helping to, if you would like to further your education, get your CPA. I know that I took the Becker class to sit for the CPA exam while everything was fresh in my mind right when I graduated, and the agency supported me with that. So it's not just, skills, but it's, if you want to go for some of those additional, degrees or any type of certification after you graduated as well.
So we have one question about, I'm interested in real estate. Is there any program or opportunity in that field for accounting? Greg, did you see that?
Yeah,
anywhere?
The answer is yes. In a lot of ways, look, like if you want to go work for a bank that does lending, Capital One is a huge commercial real estate lending arm, as well as multifamily lending, as far as like apartment housing and those sorts of things, community lending as well. Look, I mean, we have a bunch of real estate investment trusts here in DC that they effectively manage a bunch of properties, and you can be an accountant that works for one of those teams, right? And you're on the ground making investment decisions regularly and assessing the accounting impacts of those decisions. So if you're interested in real estate, there's certainly a place for accountants in the real estate world. Probably now more important than ever, with housing prices going crazy, but also commercial real estate sort of going in the other direction because we don't go back to the office anymore, right? So yeah, there's a lot of interesting real estate related questions we're asking right now on our side as I sit here in Capital One's fairly empty building.
But it allows us to all meet virtually and have these kind of exploration events with everyone all over the country. So we definitely appreciate everyone's time. And we're about 2 minutes over now. So Kathy, did you see any more questions come through? I think we should be all set.
I think we've covered them all.
But again, just want to say thank you to our panelists for your experience, your willingness to donate your time to be with us this evening, for our students to explore and just learn more about alternative pathways that, you know, not just working for that public accounting firm, even though you might have some background in it, you know, being able to just use those accounting skills for that career development. So thank you again for joining us. And in respect of time, we'll go ahead and wrap this up, but I will, again, be sharing this recording with our panelists. I'll send you the link, but also to our attendees, so you can rewatch it, take any notes that you may have missed, and that'll be available within the week in Handshake, and then I'll be sure to email that out too. So thank you again, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday and a lovely rest of your March. So thanks again for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for the rich discussion. We appreciate your time. It was excellent.
Take care.
Thank you.